By the way, I hope you guys know that we've taken in 4 or 5 investors now.
Cool.
We've created San Antonio and Austin yesterday. So like we're generating just a little bit of momentum. Let's see if I can get him. Jack's done a good job.
Hi, James.
Hey, Jack, how are you?
Good. How are you?
You able to join us?
Yeah, sorry. I'm joining from the road, so.
Okay. Okay. We'll wait. We'll hang out.
All right, no problem.
Bye-bye.
I'll be right in.
Okay. So, we'll wait for Jack, but we're probably going to go live on Uniswap, like probably this week, which will be fun. And I think in our last call, we talked a little bit about, we'll go in with like a little bit of a discount to where we're trading privately and leave the full upside. And when that happens, when that goes off, I'll ruin it for you. We're going to do a little airdrop to everybody on the team. So everybody's going to get 1,000 Dow squared.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Landon and I talked yesterday about him becoming, in a more formal way, sort of the director of marketing. He lives in Boca, which is very close to the Fort Lauderdale airport, which is very convenient for me because I can get there every morning, like in 2 hours. And so that relationship appears to be becoming more formal. And we talked last time, we think we have a 6-figure investor, which is going to make, operations much, much easier. But I'll wait for Jack, just make small talk. Jenny, is it still 105 there?
No, it's cooled off yesterday and today. For the first days, it's been under 100, and
Wow.
So we'll be 91 today, 90, 93, 97. So now we're going to spend a few weeks in the hundreds, or I mean in the 90s.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, we have a big fire though.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, east of here, it's like 250,000 acres already, and they think it's going to burn until November, at least.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Until the rains come.
Yeah, there's less than 5% containment, and it's just.
Is it in the mountains?
No,
in the
not
mountains?
really. It's east of the Cascade Range.
I see.
So it's been smoky here, like on and off the past couple of days, but this is just the beginning of fire season, so it's going to be interesting.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's going on with the
Where to start?
website? Is it coming up pretty going to be finished soon, or?
Pretty much is finished. We sort of had a hanging chad on just like some logos and some final things like that, but it's pretty much ready to go. By the way, Travis, as we talked about, anticipated several people to call in. They want to invest and and they say, do you have a white paper? And like, I can tell that like they're not making the decision on what's in the white paper. It's just the fact that we have one. So as soon as it goes out to them, they call back and they're like, yeah, hey, I'm ready to send you an ETH.
Yeah.
Just in general demographics, it appears we're appealing to slightly conservative white men. Imagine that.
Okay. Yeah, who would have thought?
Well, not totally imagine that. I mean, because I try not to like make that my shtick, but rural Virginia, Texas, etc. So one of the things we'll talk about here before we get through is how we might move in a different direction at the same time. So I'm trying to think if we need to talk. There he is. Hey, Jack. Can
All
you hear me
right.
now? There we go.
Yes.
Cool.
All right. Wonderful.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry for the accommodation, but
No problem.
Mhm.
It is what it is. Give us like, the joy of tokenization that you've been working on this week.
So San Antonio and Austin are made, sent off to Ron. So I did get the pricing back from Elizabeth, but we're gonna have to sort of within a month to actually claim. But hold on, you guys can hear me, right?
No, you went through like the slow motion version. Say that again. We're gonna have to make a whole bunch of tokens in order to get that discount.
Yes. So it steps up in groups of 5, 5,
Okay.
10, and then I believe at 20 tokens made within 1 month, then we hit the 50% off their commission.
Okay.
So, but for now, we're still paying about 0.25 Ethereum for every token being made.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's do this. I continue to get inquiries like every couple hours, and both from direct messages and emails, and it actually feels like it's accelerating a little bit. Why don't you look at the map, the area code map, and make, the next 5 or 10, let's just say the next 10, all the states that are 1 or 2 area codes. And
Okay.
not only look to the Mountain West, but look to New England, like Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, I think are all 1 area code.
Okay.
And that'll be interesting too, because it's a very different demographic. It's sort of like conservative in a different way. Conservative in that they want to preserve, the culture and way of life of, those states. Vermont's sort of a weird place. It's my son went to military school there, and it's, it's very, very liberal on one hand, and on the other hand, they desperately want to preserve the way it looks, and not have Walmart and Target come destroy the place. So it's just an interesting thing to think about. So why don't we line up the next 10, and I'll keep banging on people to get some more ETH door. And tell us about the prospects of getting on Uniswap.
I like them a lot, especially now that we have a little more Ethereum. Because that was essentially it. I mean, if we list with, say, even, because we have enough Ethereum in our account to really, I think we could do maybe like half an Ethereum of liquidity for listing around 10,000 tokens.
Okay.
And I think we'll still be able to maintain our minimum very well.
Okay.
Or our maximum technically, but that's just the way that Uniswap that's the way Uniswap calls. Yeah, they call the minimum the maximum, the maximum the minimum. It's a little funky, but it's I like our chances a lot.
Well, why don't you do that? Why don't you do it Friday or Saturday? I'll make a TikTok and say that there's 10,000 tokens on Uniswap, and then I'll be able to talk about it on Sunday. And I think it'll really accelerate, the conversation. And we'll just say to people, it's a little bit like, I just made a hair appointment with Sports Clips for my son. Like, you can either show up and say, hey, I'd like to make an appointment, or you go online, right? And they're trying to incentivize you to do it digitally. So we're doing a discount at Uniswap. And, I'm starting to talk about DAO cubed, which is something that would go onto the main, they're not regulated exchanges, but they're, Uniswap is permissionless. Anybody can float anything on there. But to get on the Geminis and the Krakens of the world is something that we should be working on now before we have the opportunity to do it. So Travis, I was going to ask you to do a couple things. Can you start looking, because you're sort of the guy that's taken the narrative from the white paper. I always forget the name of this company. Is it Masari?
Yes.
Is it Masari? Okay. Masari and Coin Market Cap, and which is just where you sort of post, your tombstone in securities talk. That's what that would be. But we have this many tokens. It's doing this. Just to remind you, DAO squared is 150 million tokens because you multiply that times 2, which is the price we're trying to go out the door at, and we have $300 million. And even though that sounds like a gigantic number, it's really not. As we build out all these tokens, I think it's just sort of the minimum of what we need. And then people will go, oh my God, DAO squared is going to have a relationship with all these other tokens. You know the story. All the other underlying DAOs, regional, whatever, are going to be 100 million just to keep the math easy, just to keep the conversation easy. But why don't you look into what it takes to post that information on Masari and Coin Market Cap. I always want to say Coinbase for some reason. And then also look into what are the requirements to get on these major exchanges. I don't know, pick the top 6 or 8 and see what we need in terms of volume, market cap, cost, whatever. I don't know what it is. I mean, I could do it myself, but I have lots of other things to do. And that would be a major event for us to get on one of the big exchanges. Like everything changes.
Oh yeah.
Because the liquidity there is just like, if you look at the volume of stuff that goes even through, I know Uniswap trades roughly the same volume as Coinbase. And I think Kraken and Gemini are even much bigger. So, we have a big story. I've been a little bit shy about it, but frankly, if we build, I don't know, 60 DAOs and have them all on Uniswap, you could justifiably stand up and say ours is the biggest project built on Ethereum in terms of the amount of capital that can move through it. It's just not being silly about it. That's just a fact. And it's next Thursday that I talk to Matt Kaufman. It'll be a conversation that's basically, next Thursday. It's not like, hey, Jim, what do you want to do? He knows exactly what we want to do. And I've just been putting it off until I got branding and you guys and the whole thing knit together. And even so much as like, I talked to Landon about, what's the address? Whenever we register all this stuff, we're going to I have to have a specific address of where like the FBI can be sent if they have to come find me. That was a joke, by the way. But all the legal stuff will go through Wyoming law through Matt Kaufman, because everything will be domiciled. And domiciled doesn't mean you live there. Domiciled means you're registered legally there, right? Because like most corporations are domiciled in Delaware, even though they don't have an office there. It's just where it's what court system, any activity would go through. So just laying that out for you so you know how all that works. But Travis, if you really make us a roadmap of what we would do, I think the next step is that I've tried to sketch out this week on the TikToks is, I like to go like this with my hands. If we go like this with tokenization and retirement plans, we've done something very significant for the Ethereum community. Like, I don't hear any, in other words, you can buy Ethereum with your IRA. Everybody knows that. That's been that way for a couple of years, but the idea that like you can create new tokens in retirement asset world, we call it qualified money. That's really a completely different situation, as I like to say, because the plumbing routes everybody into into the mutual fund world, which is, pretty much all the same kinds of assets, stocks and bonds, effectively. So Jenny, let's you and I have, if you're in the mood, do you want to talk about the TikTok video that we talked about?
Sure.
Because I've had a little bit of time to digest my thoughts on this subject. Do you want to go first?
No, you're welcome to.
Okay. So I made a TikTok and Jenny didn't like it, and it referred to sugar daddy sites and women going there for sort of economic opportunities. And she found it somewhat offensive, or at the very least, if not offensive, contrary to our branding strategy. My defense of the thing is this, of the video, is the woman who made the video spelled out very clearly. It was just like, I'm going onto one of these sites because of, she said, capitalism has failed me. And it's sort of a strange thing to say because people will look at you crossways, but in a lot of ways, we don't really, capitalism hasn't failed. It's that we don't live in a capitalist system anymore, right? Like if BlackRock manages $23 trillion, that's like the whole fucking GDP. It's like the Vikings came up the river and now took over the whole country. Like you don't live in the same country. And, that's pretty strong language, but, between access to healthcare, access to education, access to living wages, the influence of social media on men and women, I believe that, the thought process that came to the Woman's DAO was this idea that if the economics are as fucked up as I've been trying to present them as, and millennials and Gen Z don't have any question about that, it's people my age and above who are like, what? The stock market's at an all-time high. Everything's fine. And the underbelly of the economy is people who are very vulnerable, and that's frequently young women who are in relationships they may not want to be in. They can't get out of them. They have abuse. They have chemical abuse. Their economic opportunities are somewhat limited. Not to mention the fact that if you take any big American city where all the jobs are, the cost of living is just crazy. Even Jim Cramer one time was like, I guess he has a restaurant somewhere in Brooklyn or something like that. And he was like, yeah, a lot of my employees work 3 jobs. Yeah, it's because they fucking live in the greater Manhattan area. It's like $3,000 a month just to pay the light bill and some form of rent. So that's why I made the video. Those are my thoughts behind it. Jenny's exact words were, I don't think sex work should be in any way, shape, or form attached to the Women's DAO. And
I would like
my point is
to not associate the Women's DAO to sex work is what I said. I simply asked that we not associate the Women's DAO to sex work. That was literally what I said.
Right. So I'm done. I brought it up because I think, why do women become strippers? Do women really grow up and want to become strippers? And, a lot of them say like, yeah, I can make $2,500 a night, so it's related, but I'm done. All right, Jenny, you say your piece.
That's really all it was. It was that there had already been a previous video associating the Woman's DAO to prostitution, and then a secondary one associating it to, and I've got no problem. I am for whatever my personal opinions are, legalization of sex work. Sex work is real work. I'm not trying to make that a bad thing. I'm trying to keep this professional. And I think that that's low-hanging fruit that has always existed, will always exist. And if our intention with whatever is to make change and affect the issues that clearly are at hand and have been exacerbated recently, then maybe we should focus on those things instead of continually making the association with sex work. That's it. It just seems really
lowbrow. Yeah, yeah. And TikTok is lowbrow. I mean, a lot of it is just.
But we're not, or I'm not, and I don't think any of us are, and I don't think our projects are, and I don't want it to be portrayed that way. It makes me uncomfortable as a businesswoman who has never done anything and worked as a businesswoman with all of the struggles that they're facing today for 25 years in my career. I have faced the exact same struggles that all of them face. And I didn't ask for money from sugar daddies. So let's just like keep it professional instead of continuing to like bring this up because it's available to make an example of.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, as we start to put these geographic DAOs together, and Jenny and I have been talking offline about, she has some things in the works of her own, Jenny does, and maybe at this point, I really want to be clear about like, Bruno is going to create an investment management company that just organizes these things. Somebody had a really good, I think it was in Kyla Scanlon's piece. You know, it's like Pete Rose was a player on the Cincinnati Reds and also the general manager. We're not really trying, the idea of a DAO that's controlled by some central committee that isn't, you know, created by or approved of by the members is not a DAO at all. So my idea for a woman's DAO is, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what to do with it. And it should, for obvious reasons, probably be a pretty diverse group of core people who present like, here's what we want to do. And as people come in as members, do you want us to go this way? Do you want us to go this way? Is this going to be like a nonprofit? Are we going to invest in women's businesses? Are we going to pay off student loans? Whatever. I don't really have real strong opinions about that. I could see it go a lot of different ways. So let me also say that I reached out to a woman by the name of Susan Shamian, who, if you Google anything related to sheep, and now I've put up some videos of me moving sheep around so people know that I actually did grow up on a sheep farm. It's actually funny. I get a call from my dad like, hey, can you come help me load sheep? I'm like 50 fucking years old and I'm loading sheep like I'm 13. But anyways, so if you Google sheep anything, sheep 101, you're going to see pretty much everything that comes up is written by this woman from the University of Maryland, who's a small ruminant, that means sheep and goats, expert, literally expert, like global expert. She's very super intelligent, super knowledgeable, super sincere about rural economies. She's also not ideological, which is, I think, the big theme in Bruno land. In other words, she can sit and talk about, like I did that dairy farm video, like we went to this real small, you know, raw milk, raw cheese place. And then on the way out, I videoed like those giant barns that all have like 1,000 cows in them. And she can sit and tell you why they're both efficient, which I really like. Like I like someone who can just like follow the science in both directions, right? So I have a call with her this afternoon, and a lot like Jenny, I've asked her to be an advisor on a farm DAO. And because she's an academic, she's an extension agent and a PhD. You know, she has a Rolodex. She can pick up the phone and call people in New Zealand and China and, you know, Oregon, wherever. And much the same, put together like a little central committee of what a farm DAO would look like, and bringing those resources together. Agriculture, like a lot of hot button issues, brings a lot of strong opinions without a lot of experience. I think that's a nice way of saying it. I've been to things like the Pennsylvania Association of Sustainable Agriculture, and like 80% of the people there have never planted a tomato. So you have to be careful. Like if you really want to do these things the right way, you have to find those people that really have the background and knowledge base to achieve things, particularly when we're handling other people's money. We're really creating an asset management function. And that's a very formal thing. Like that has to be, Bruno Capital has, I don't know, I won't give it a name, but like has collected these, 12 people who are being compensated out of the management fee for, if nothing else, for their expenses, let's say, right? And they are giving opinions on projects, on technology, on the potential acquisition of land in this case. Do we buy farms and lease them to people at what rate, et cetera, et cetera. You see how this snowballs into a bigger project and more complex, but we need that talent pool, and it needs to have some formality to it. In my opinion, this is how DAOs will explode, not in a chaotic way where just everybody's running around with their heads cut off, but bringing that formality so the thing can grow. I beat up on the mutual fund industry. If you go to Pittsburgh, there's a tower down there owned by Federated Investors with like thousands of people in it. I think they manage like $600 billion. And do they add a lot of value? No, not so much. So we need to create that asset management function at the same time that like Jack's doing the tokenization, Travis is learning how we get on these exchanges. I would like all of these tokenized DAOs to be on the major exchanges. And that's when I can stand up and say, no, I'm not goofy to say that this can handle 1% of mutual fund assets, right? It's $360 billion. If you have the right asset management team in place for all these different things, we'll eventually do real estate. We'll probably do some things that are like venture capital, blah, blah, blah. And that's how this really scales. And what we need to do is just make sure the very limited part that Bruno Capital is trying to do is basically the tech, security, and regulation. That's it. And we're just making the new plumbing. So, and then, the asset management people are the people who really put the rubber on the road. So that's what I'm going to start doing while Jack's, continuing to push tokens out to people directly and out to Uniswap. And Travis, if you want to help like build this roadmap of how these tokens get traded on the big exchanges. As I talk to people and they hear all this, they go like, so I'm not making fun of them, I shouldn't. But they're like, you're going to do this over the next couple of years. I'm like, no. We're going to do this over the next couple of months. And the reason is because all the technology is already created, right? All these brilliant people have created Garda, have created Uniswap. The nice folks of Wyoming have passed all this legislation that makes all this very, very clear. Last comment I'll make on that standpoint is because I think, I've had some experience putting together little pools of capital to do things. And I'll just remind you that the LLC was created in Wyoming. And so it's really interesting that they would also, when you hear the story of a DAO, it sort of sounds left wing. It's like you're making a Soviet, like, the word Soviet was like this collective that would like control the capital, like regionally. It's a lot like what we're talking about. But it's also very odd that legislation would be passed in like maybe the most red state in the country, right? So I love that. I love that like irony.
I think it's a hilarious example going on right before our eyes of horseshoe theory in action, and I'm here for it. It is so funny, and nobody seems to be getting it.
What's horseshoe theory? I've never heard that before.
When the two sides end up closer together than the center
Right.
was.
Right. I just told my dad when we were driving back, I don't know how, I was talking about Austin. We're going to do an Austin fun, and he loves country music. And I said, Dad, do you know that like Willie and Waylon, like part of their relationship happened because of a big music festival in Austin. And Willie literally like ran to the phone and said, Waylon, you got to come down to this. It's like hippies and cowboys all in the same music festival. And I told him, I said, I've thought of like domiciling there, because like I went down there a couple of years ago to meet a guy who's going to help me put blockchain tokens together, a lot like, we're doing now. And I went out to a bar that night, and like behind the bar was this giant picture of Janis Joplin, and then to the right was a picture of Waylon Jennings, and I was like, I think I like Austin. Anyways, it's my little Austin story. Landon did not join us. He might pop on here in a minute. What else? Any hanging chads or like other things that we should discuss at the moment that's crucial? No? All right, so let's kill it there. I can see the record buttons on. Travis, I think what you did with YouTube looks really sharp. I love the big logo that comes up. When people pull that up, we look like, it's like a real catalog of things to scroll through. Are, tens of thousands of people going to go through that? Probably not. But I think what will happen is we'll eventually be talking to people with more knowledge about the space and also more capital. And that's a real nice way for them to do due diligence on this, is just to listen to us talk, right? So that was my
Totally.
thought process there. Yeah, it's sort of the theme of the whole DeFi space, right? So,
Absolutely. Transparency.
yep. So Jack, keep me posted on all things tokens, and I'll keep, I'll get back on the phone and try to close deals and try to make people feel. I have to tell you that I really don't have a hard sell with these people. They're just calling to ask 3 or 4 questions, and they're like, okay, what do I do next?
Oh
And I
yeah,
say,
they're ready to be sold to. They're
Yeah.
ready to. No, exactly.
I think
The whole reason they're
it's
reaching
almost,
out.
I think it's almost like they're testing us to see if, like there's hesitation in our voice, if you know what I mean.
Okay. If there's any trepidation on our end.
Yeah, thank you. Nice word. Yeah, they're just sort of like reading body language or just reading voice inflections, and I'm like, no, just call Jack and we're on. So it's all good. There are 2 or 3 people who have commented, in a real negative way that we're gonna do a rug pull, and I'm like, I actually commented back on some of them this morning. I was like, why? We don't need to do a rug pull. This is so big. As long as we don't fuck it up, it's giant. It's huge. Anyways, I'll leave it there. Obviously, I'm ready to talk to you guys like offline about do a deeper dive on some of this stuff. And Jenny, you and I need to keep working on I think it's good now. I'm going to go into like the woman's DAO and the farm DAO thing and start to think that through of like how we structure that. I'll talk to Matt about like what Matt's going to do is there'll be a core DAO. It's really like a glorified LLC document. There'll be a PPM, which is a big, hoary 80-page thing that nobody reads, which has all the disclaimers in it. But more importantly,